will seep right into your subconscious mind and you're toast. Do you know a lot of people, they're doing everything right, and all of a sudden they just feel terrible. And why do they feel that way? And they don't really know. Well, you know, you could be with one or two other people that have a really bad attitude, just a negative concept. They're caught up in all the negativity that's going on. They don't even say anything to you, but all of a sudden you start to feel like them. Why is that? Their energy's gone right into your mind. And if you're not careful, that's the way it'll work. Now, aside from that, I want you to think of this, because there's some of you that are brand new. Now, some of you I've spoken to before. I was together at your convention. Here's what I want you to sink this into your mind. A lot of you are trying to figure out, how do you do this? How do you do this? You're working on trying to understand marketing plans and how do you do this and how do you do that? I'm going to tell you something. Some people never learn all that stuff very good, but they earn millions of dollars. It's 5% strategy and 95% mindset. Success is 5% strategy, 95% mindset. Now, I want to share with you a little bit about how I started in this and how we've got to where we are. I was doing a program here just a couple of days ago, and we were broadcasting into 110 countries. We are working in 89 countries. I took a pen in my hand one day in 1973 and said, I'm going to build a company that operates all over the world. Do you know something? We operate all over the world. Now think of that. How did I do it? I don't know. You see, I didn't have the money, I didn't have the time, I didn't have the know-how, but yet we got it going. Now, how do those things happen? Well, I picked up this book, but the man that gave me the book, he also gave me something else. He said, you know, Bob, he said, you don't seem to be able to win for losing. He said, you're unhappy, you're sick, you're broke, you're just going nowhere in a hurry. Now, he said, a disciplined mind can create substantial change starting today, if you'll really do what I tell you. Now, I didn't really believe that, but I believed he believed it. And I'm going to tell you something. When I committed to study, and I commit to study me, when I commit to study success, study how to build the right mindset, and then follow proven direction, my whole life began to change, and changed dramatically. See, what Ray taught me when he gave me the book, he taught me that discipline is the ability to give yourself a command and then follow it. I'll tell you something that Jenna and Joshua are real masters at. That's what they're good at. Jenna has disciplined herself to a phenomenal degree. And I don't have to study her to know that. I just have to look at the company. Look at what she's done. Look at what the two of them have done. Built a phenomenal company. Now, such great examples because what they've done, you can do. That's just the way it works. Lock yourself into this. Well, I got going. I built a cleaning company that operated in a number of different places. And I was having a great time with it. But I didn't know why I was winning. I was living in England. I was earning over $1 million a year. And I was really very irresponsible. I was throwing the money all over the place. I used to go down to the Playboy Club on Park Lane. It was right beside the London Hilton in England. And I'd play roulette. I didn't even care if I lost. And I almost always won. It was a bit of a really strange situation. But I was getting very frustrated. I was earning all this money and I wasn't as happy as I thought I should be. I really wasn't on purpose. I didn't know where I was going, didn't know what I was doing. And I thought, how did this happen to me? You see, unlike some people, I never went to school. I went to high school for a couple of months. I never had a half-decent job. I just bounced around from job to job, went in the Navy, come out, and I was losing every time I turned around. And when Ray gave me this book, everything took off like a rocket. So here I am earning all this money, and I'm trying to think, how did this happen? And you know something? I couldn't tell you. I didn't know how it happened. And so I thought, somebody must know. And I started to study. It took me 9.5 years when I figured out what I had been doing to go from really losing to winning in a pretty big way. All I wanted to do is teach this. Now that was way back in the 60s. And I visited Earl Nightingale. And he and Lloyd Conant were partners in the Nightingale Conant Corporation. They actually started the personal development business as we know it today. And Lloyd Conant was just a phenomenal guy. He became a very good friend. And I was at his place for dinner one day, and I asked him, I said, Lloyd, how did you start this company? And he told me, he said, well, you know, a guy gave me this book, and I stayed awake all weekend studying it, and then on Monday morning I just decided I was going to build a world-class organization. And all of a sudden I wasn't remotely interested in how he started the company. I wanted to know, what's the book? And so he gave me a copy of it. And that was in 1968. I just kept studying that thing like a scientist. Now this is the same book that Rhonda Byrne used as a foundation to make the movie The Secret. And of course that thing went wild. It went all over the world, about 500 million people. I often say there's as many people in Iran knows me as there is in Indiana. And it just changed my whole business. Off I went. So I decided that I was just going to keep studying this. And I did, and I've never stopped. Now, I'm going to tell you some stuff here that really works. It's all in awareness. It's real. I say it's mindset. You don't, like, a person doesn't earn 100,000 a year because they want 100 a year. They're earning 100 a year because they're not aware of how to earn 100 a month. Now, I want you to think about that for a moment. You've got people in your company earning an enormous amount of money, and some of them, you ask them how they're doing it, they can't tell you. It doesn't make any difference. They have a mindset. They see themselves winning. They see themselves being where they want to be. Now, that's what I want you to do. Just trust me on this. If you'll trust me on this, you'll see that it'll work like unadulterated magic. There's no magic to it. It's pretty simple, actually. It's all in awareness. Listen, there's a marvelous inner world that exists within us. And the revelation of such a world enables us to do, to attain, to achieve anything that we desire within the bounds or the limits of nature. You've got power locked up within you. That's just the way it is. Now, I have found that if you understand the mind and you can understand paradigms, you're going to find your business will start to grow, your income will go up, everything will start working for you. See, I worked backwards. I was going the other way. I was earning the money and I had no idea why I was doing it. I want to show you how to go at this. Now, I took on a partner. You saw a picture of her on the slider, you will. Sandy joined my company about 15 years ago, and she was absolute genius. You know, it's just something like Jenna and Joshua got together. They were just a good match, and they built a great company. Sandy and I are a good match. Sandy's a real good detail money person. I am very good on the other side. And this is the way it worked in our company. But I wanted to find out why I was winning. And it's with this is where I really started to learn it. And this is where you'll really start to learn. And I'm going to show you something here. It's the most valuable idea I have ever learned. Paradigms keep us going and keep us where we are. When we learn how to change the paradigm, things start to go up. And they just keep going up and keep going up. It's absolutely beautiful the way it works. There was a doctor in San Antonio, Texas in 1934. And he was very involved in the healing arts and very involved in holistic health. And he was a bit perplexed. You know, he couldn't figure out what really was wrong with the medical profession. He said, what we're doing is treating symptoms. We're not treating the cause of problems. So think about this for a moment. He said, we're treating symptoms, we're not treating the cause of the problems. That's quite frequently what keeps people back in business. They're treating the symptom, they're not treating the cause of the problem. They think the problem's outside of themselves. They think it's with their downline. They think it's something else. No, it's always inside. And he said, you know, the problem is no one's ever seen the mind. Now, I was down in your convention, and you saw this drawing before. He said, I'm going to give you a picture of the mind. You know, I know many doctors today are using this drawing in their patient rooms. I have used this, taught this to psychiatrists, and their practice has changed dramatically. Well, when I started to use it, my whole business changed because my understanding of what was going on changed. Now look at the top half of that big circle is the conscious mind. The bottom half is the subconscious, and the little circle is the body. And the body is the instrument of the mind. So if you wonder why you're doing what you're doing and how do you change, start to pay attention to what you're doing. Start to pay attention to what your body's doing when it gets out of bed in the morning. Now that may sound strange, but that's what you have to do. You've got to stop and analyze, what is my body doing when I get out of bed in the morning? What do I do? There's a routine that you follow when you get up. Now some people, when they get up, boom, they're away at it. You know where I am when I get up? 5:30, I'm here in this studio. I'm in my own studio now. We have a studio here. We broadcast. I broadcast all over the world. And we literally do broadcast all over the world. But I'm in here 5:30 every morning. And I'm working on me. I'm studying. Well, you know, if you'll make up your mind to do that, you're going to find your life will change. Now, this drawing is without question the most valuable idea I've learned. Started to study this book in 1961. I've never stopped studying. Never stopped studying it. And today, I still think that's the most valuable idea I've ever learned. So let's take a look how this thing works. It's pretty simple. There's nothing complicated about it. Okay? There's your thinking mind, the conscious mind. That's a thinking mind. That's the part of you that thinks. Now, the problem with most people is they don't. I'm going to show you what happens when you don't think in a few minutes. And it's Disasterville. All right? This is what we call the educated mind. This is also the area of the mind where you can build new ideas. It's where your intellect is resident. Now think about that for a moment. Your intellect, that's what separates you from all the rest of the animal kingdoms. Think of this for a moment. All the little creatures out there are completely at home in their environment. They blend in. You and I are totally disoriented in our environment. That is because we've been given the creative faculties to create our own environment. Most people couldn't tell you anything about their intellectual factors. I'm going to show you here in a few minutes. Okay? Now, this is your emotional mind, the subconscious mind. And if you got to protect what goes in there, and if you don't, you're toast. I'm telling you, you're going to lose. Okay? Now, the conscious mind has the ability to choose. You can choose what you want to do. You know, Viktor Frankl, a Viennese psychiatrist, spent the war years in a German concentration camp. It was while he was in that camp that he learned that regardless of the intellectual or physical abuse he was subjected to, no one could cause him to think something he didn't want to think. Now think about that for a moment. He said, you have the ability to choose. You have the ability to accept or reject. Now think of that for a moment. We can accept or reject. We don't have to accept any idea. And you have the ability to originate ideas. Now your subconscious mind doesn't have that power. Look at this for a moment. Your subconscious mind must accept anything you give to it. And whatever you program in there is going to turn in your outside world. Okay? And it must accept it because it has no ability to reject it. See, your conscious mind can choose to accept or reject, not your subconscious. It has to accept whatever you give it. And it cannot differentiate between what's imagined and what's real. Let's take a person that's got a teenager. And the teenager gets old enough to get their driver's license and they got the car. And they're out that night and they're told, you be careful and you'll be back by 10 o'clock. 10 o'clock comes and goes, no kid, no teenager, no car. And 11 o'clock, still nothing. 11:30, finally they show up. Well, all hell breaks loose. The parents were so worried. They were panic-stricken. They had all kinds of bad things happening. Their imagination got involved in the idea and they got upset. And there was nothing wrong at all. The kid had probably fallen asleep over at a friend's house watching a movie or something. But you see, your subconscious mind, if your conscious mind is feeding it all kinds of bad energy with your imagination, your subconscious mind must accept it. Let's take a look at it a different way here for a moment. We'll say here, this is you today, okay? Now, you're being inundated with information today from all your social media, from other people, from all kinds of Netflix, all kinds of nonsense. It's just coming at you right or left. Now you have the ability to think. The newspapers and the TV are full of nothing but bad news. All the bad that's going on, all kinds of statistics being kept on negative stuff. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm going to tell you something. I do not read the newspapers. I do not listen to the news. I do not need that. Now, you see, because you can think, you have the ability to listen to that and say, get out of here, and not accept it. You can just cause it to go away. You can look at it and listen to it, say, I'm not listening to this, and cause it to go away. I'm going to tell you, 90-some% don't do this. This is what they do. They don't only not tell it to go away, they leave their mind wide open and it goes right into their subconscious mind. Why would they do that? Do you know there's people that are actually afraid? They've got all kinds of crazy stuff going on in their mind because of what they hear in the news, because of what they read in the newspapers. When your subconscious mind is wide open, everything that's going around you goes right into your subconscious mind. Why would we do that? It's a paradigm. We're literally programmed to live that way, okay? We're literally programmed to live that way. Now, how did we get like that? Well, let's look at this. We'll close the window there and look over here on this side, okay? There is a brand new baby. The baby's mind is wide open. What do we say on the other side, the conscious mind? Their conscious mind hasn't developed. They don't see, smell, taste, touch. They're totally unaware of what's going on around them. And so everything that's going on around them goes right into their subconscious mind because their subconscious mind is wide open. So everything that's going on around is dumping right into that baby's mind. Now, you see, we think because the baby's not talking to us that they don't pick this up. They pick everything up. They pick all your thoughts up. They pick all the news up. They pick all the worries. They pick all the fighting that's going on around them. Everything goes right into that baby's subconscious mind. And it stays there, and that's how the paradigm is formed. A paradigm is a program that's in your subconscious mind. Think of the programs that you have, let's say, in your phone. Think of the programs you've got in here. You got programs in here. And you're glad you've got them because you can do all kinds of magic with this. You can feed numbers in, hit a couple of things, boom, 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 and it gives you the answer. And it all happens automatically. Well, you know, we've got a program in the biocomputer. Only we didn't write the code for it. We did not write the code for the program that we call a paradigm. Who wrote the code? Well, you're the confluence of a genetic pool that goes back for maybe 1,000 years. All your grandparents, your great-grandparents, your parents, they all that fit into your subconscious mind. You see, at the moment of birth, you were programmed. It's built into the genes. The DNA of your being has all these ideas programmed in there. That's part of the paradigm. And then you see it the way it is after birth. The mind is wide open. And here we are, 20, 30, 40 years later. We're exactly the same, programmed exactly the same way. Now, this is rather sick if you stop and think about it, because we're going to lose, and somebody else wrote the program. You see, I was losing. I was losing in a big way. Somebody else had written my program, and I had changed, and I couldn't figure out why I changed. There I was in England, earning all this money, throwing it all over the place, and one day, I thought, you know, I'm not being very responsible. And that's when I decided I was going to figure out what happened to me. I have studied with some of the most brilliant people in the world. And I'm going to tell you, I've watched their lives change. I've watched lives change like night and day by working with people, sharing what I have got from this. Now look here for a moment. A paradigm is a mental program that has almost exclusive control over our habitual behavior. And almost all of our behavior is habitual. I don't know how much you're into this, but I tell you this. I know the people that are really locked into this are earning millions of dollars. They're building very powerful companies. Jenna has been studying this now, what I teach, for a long, long time, for a number of years. She's into the videos and she just keeps studying this. That's why she asked me to come on here and share this with you. She wants you to win the way she's winning. And you can win the way she's winning. They're very generous with everything they do, and you know that. Now, how do we do it? You've got to recognize how the paradigm is controlling your life. Then you have to make a decision to change it. And if you don't, you're going to lose. So let's take another look at the mind again. Here we are here. There's the reasoning mind. Okay? Now think. That conscious mind is divided into two parts. You have the inductive reasoning and deductive reasoning. Now your subconscious, remember what we said about it? It couldn't reject. It will accept anything you give to it. It is totally deductive. What do we mean by that? It's immoral. It's like the earth. It doesn't care what you plant. Now, if you're not thinking, if you stop thinking, the second you stop thinking, you become totally deductive to what's going on around you. And your mind is wide open. And you got all this negativity. There's negativity around you wherever you go. And zingo, it's going right into your subconscious mind. That's right. And it's controlling your behavior. Now think about that for a moment. That is a pretty sad story, but that is actually happening. Do you know there's people that are absolutely brilliant, but because of this, they're losing. And they don't even know how to change it. Well, why does this happen? Well, let's take a look at how school operates. The yellow represents organizational model, the organized education. The white represents the Proctor Gallagher Institute. Now there's a person with senses, okay? You see, hear, smell, taste, touch. You listen, you hear what the teacher's saying. And because you hear what the teacher's saying, you begin gathering information. That's where you start piling the books up in the consciousness. Every now and then they come along and they're going to give you a test. They want to find out if you have learned anything. Now, this is not learning. I don't know what you call it, and it's not education. It is gathering information. That's all it is. So really think about this. They say if you answer the questions right, you know. That is not knowing. That is not knowing. It doesn't work that way. Now let's take a look at this. There's a difference between hearing and listening. You hear with your ears, you listen with your emotions. You've got to let yourself get emotionally involved with this information. You've got to let it sink right in. If you do, odds are pretty good you will learn something. Learning is not gathering information and repeating it. Learning is when you consciously entertain an idea, you get emotionally involved in that idea, you step out and act on the idea, and you change the end result. It's the feedback from the change in result that's the learning experience. But that's the way school has it. And this is what happens as a result of that. Now pay close attention. School gave us valuable knowledge. However, school never taught us anything about a paradigm, never taught us how to alter the paradigm. Therefore, we just don't do many of the things we already know how to do. See, the problem with people when they come into my daily choice, it isn't that they don't know how to win. After you've been around this business for, let's say, even a week or two, then you know what to do. You know how to approach another person, talk to them about what they want. Don't talk about what you want. Talk about what they want. You know that, but that doesn't mean you're going to do it. So here's a person, superior knowledge, inferior results, and they are frustrated. See, they've gone to school. Let's put the model back up there again, fill it with books, because that's what happened in school. The school dumped all the books into the mind, and they tested you to see if you remembered what was in them. And they called that learning. That is not learning. This is what explains why a person that's absolutely brilliant is getting such terrible results. You know people who could figure you right through a brick wall. They are absolutely brilliant, but the results they're getting, nothing. Their results just aren't there. Why? Well, it's the paradigm that causes the results. What they know doesn't mean anything. It's the paradigm that causes the results. So really pay attention. You know, you can change all that. You can really change it. You can. See, if you want to change your results, you got to change your paradigm. You change the paradigm, you'll change the results. Now this is where we come in. This is what our company does. We get all kinds of videos on YouTube. Go and study them. We're talking about awareness. That's really where it's at. There's people with a high level of awareness, people with a low level. When it comes to knowing how to build a business, Jen Zweigel knows how to build a business. Joshua knows how to build a business. They have demonstrated that you're a part of it. They're operating with a fairly high level of consciousness. You'll find people with A and B level. Now, it's a strange thing. What role does awareness play in your results? Well, it plays a big role. Let's take a look at this here. Here's a baby. A baby is not aware of the dangers of fire. Many, many years ago, I spent 5 years on the fire department in the suburb of Toronto. And the first fire call I went on was a house that was burning. The third floor was burst out in flames. There was a police officer going down the street. It was in the middle of the night, around 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. And he saw the flames coming out of this house. So he ran in and got everybody up. Fortunately, no one was hurt. When we got there, we were putting the fire out. Now, apparently there was a woman living on the third floor with a little boy. She was up there by herself with this little boy. The little boy got out of bed sometime in the night and wandered out into the other room. They had 2 rooms, the bedroom and the kitchen is where they lived. The little boy wandered into a big walk-in pantry and got playing with a big box of matches. The matches lit on fire and he got scared, threw it, and went and got back into bed. That is not unusual for a child. Most little children that are lost in fires, they don't get burned, they're asphyxiated. They'll hide, they'll go under stairs or things like that, and maybe hide under a bed. Well, this little baby is not aware of the dangers of fire. Okay? Now think of that for a moment. You see, developing awareness has taken a back seat to the development of the intellect. We have become super aware, and it's a big deal. You got to get the degree. The degree is everything. Take that back for a moment. The degree is actually everything. So you'll find a person with a degree, but they're absolutely useless. You see? It doesn't work for them. My phone is talking to me. Let me stop this thing. Hold it. There. And we are more interested in getting degrees than we are in awareness. You can have an enormous number of degrees and still be broke. There's people that are absolutely brilliant and yet they're not making it happen. I have 2 months high school, earned millions of dollars. How does that happen? It happens because I developed an awareness, and you can too. So let's take another look at this. Here you are there with the mind, okay, and the body. We'll break it into 2 parts. Say there's the conscious mind and there's the subconscious. Now look at, you can see, hear, smell, taste, and touch. Now they are like antennae, and they come up like antennae plugged into your conscious mind. And that's where we gather information from outside. Now, unfortunately, that's how we're programmed. We're programmed to go by what we hear outside. Reading the papers, watching TV, we're feeding information from outside. There's only 2 areas of reference you can go to find out anything about yourself. One science and the other is theology. Both of them clearly indicate that we should work from the inside out, not from the outside in. Now, do you see, we have an intellect. The conscious mind is also the intellectual mind. And we have these higher faculties. And it's through these higher faculties that we can control our emotional mind, our emotional state. You have perception. You've got all these powers. You've got the will. You've got imagination, memory, intuition, and reason. Now, these higher faculties will enable you to build anything you want. They are what separate us from all of the rest of the animal kingdom. School taught us nothing about these. You can go right through life, learn nothing about these. We go by what we hear. You see, we went to school. Will you listen to what I'm telling you? Will you look at what I'm showing you? All through the senses. Never working from inside out. Madame Montessori put it very well. She said, we send kids to school as if they're an empty cup, and we want the school to fill the cup out. The truth is, when we send them to school, the cup's already full. We want to show them how to draw it out from inside. That's really what we do. That's here what we do in the Proctor Gallagher Institute. This information is invaluable if you'll study it. it'll change your life. See, all those higher faculties are there in your conscious mind. And in your conscious mind, you have a paradigm. And the paradigm is controlling your behavior. You know how to do a better job than you do. You know that you shouldn't be listening to the person that's bitching and griping and moaning and complaining. And there's people doing that. If you want to listen to anyone, go to the people at the top. Find out what they're doing and do what they tell you. That's what I did. That's exactly what I did when I got this book. Now look at, through the proper use of your intellectual factors, you can get rid of the paradigm and you can create a new paradigm. That's exactly what I had done. I was in England trying to figure out what the heck did I do? Here I was broke, I was always broke. And then all of a sudden, I have a company in a number of different cities. We're in Toronto, Montreal, Boston, Cleveland, Atlanta, London, England. I was earning over $1 million a year. I had no idea what I was doing. Absolutely none. You see, I got so fascinated with listening to Earl Nightingale. First, I got this book. Then I got the record. Earl Nightingale had read the book, condensed it, and put it on a record. And I would drive around playing a record player. In fact, since we're in the studio, let me show you. Hold on. This is rather interesting. There's the record, one of them that I would listen to. Oop. Now watch here for a moment.
Which takes all you can follow. In this recording, Miracle of Your Mind, the fourth in your Lead the Field program, I want to tell you about a plan you can follow which takes only 1 hour a day, 5 days a week, and which brings results out of all proportion to the time spent. In the preceding record, A Worthy Destination, we talked about the vitalness.
Now you see, I used to listen to that everywhere I went. I would take the record player, I would listen to it. I'd drive around holding it, handheld record player. I was so fascinated with what he was talking about, I couldn't stop listening. I had never heard anybody talk like that. See, I was born during the Depression, 1934. That's right. I'm going to be 86 in a couple of days. But I've got as much energy as a person that's 46. Born during the Depression, all I heard was poverty, everything. Then we went into a world war. So in my early age, the whole world's at war, everything's rationed, you couldn't buy, nobody was working. Think. This is how I was programmed. And then I started to hear him. I started to read this book, and I started to listen to him. I thought, man, I was so fascinated with this, I couldn't stop listening to it. I decided I was going to change. Now listen. When paradigms stay in control, nothing changes. If you're struggling, it's your paradigm that's controlling you. There's no need of you struggling. If you've only been in the company for a week, there's no need for you to struggle because you know what to do. There's certain basics. You do those basics and you do them every day. Every day. Get in front of somebody. Find out what they want. Show them how to get it. Let them know you can show them how to become financially independent. School's not going to do it. They're not going to learn it at home. Only about 5 people out of 100 ever become financially independent. If the paradigm doesn't change, nothing changes. If it stays in control, you've got to make up your mind. You're going to study this. You're going to understand what paradigm is, and you're going to change it. I love what this man said. He said that, in times of change, the learners will inherit the earth. Well, the learned find themselves beautifully equipped to deal with a world that no longer exists. Then he said, to change or to learn, you need a certain degree of competence. Not too much and not too little. If you have too little, you think you can't learn. If you have too much, you'll think you don't have to learn. Now think of that again. What did he say? The learners will inherit the earth. I got that to mean they'll be happy, healthy, and wealthy. Well, the learned find themselves beautifully equipped to deal with the world. There's no such thing as a learned person. There's no such thing as an educated person. You're either learning or you're not. Education isn't something you fill up and put a cap on. Now think, If you're going to learn, you need a certain degree of confidence. Not too much, not too little. Too little, you'll think you can't. If too much, you'll think you don't have to. Get it straight. Understand there is a path in this company, and if you get on it and you do exactly what they tell you, you can have anything you want. Now, that may sound like a gross exaggeration. It's not. I've studied your company. I know what I'm talking about. Now, quit fighting reality. He said, you never change things by fighting existing reality. To change things, you build a new model that makes the existing model obsolete. Make up your mind you're going to build a new model and then really make it happen. Now, Andrew Carnegie was Napoleon Hill's mentor. Napoleon Hill wrote this book. I'm going to show you something here that's very, very valuable, because some of you are holding yourself back because you don't make a decision of where you're going to go and what you're going to do. Carnegie was the wealthiest man in the world in 1908, I think it was. 1908, he was the wealthiest man in the world. Napoleon Hill was a young guy working for a magazine as a reporter. The magazine's going to do an article on wealthy people. Hill really scored. He got to visit with the most wealthy man in the world, who was a billionaire at the time, first billionaire probably, in 1908, and spent 3 hours with him in an interview. Now, what Napoleon Hill didn't know, that Andrew Carnegie was looking for somebody. Andrew Carnegie thought it was an absolute crime that people like himself, like Henry Ford, Thomas Edison, were going to their grave with all the knowledge they had locked up in their bones. All of these guys started out with nothing. Henry Ford, Thomas Edison, Harvey Firestone. They all started with nothing, and they became the wealthiest people in the world. They seemed to know something nobody else knew. And he said, nobody's ever organized this information and put it in an organized manner for somebody to study. So he was looking for somebody to do it. And while Hill's interviewing him, he's interviewing Hill. At the end of the 3 days, Carnegie thought, I think I found my man. So at the end he said, this interview isn't ending, it's just beginning. I want you to come home with me. So he spent 3 days with him, and he started to explain his whole philosophy on how to earn money. Do you know school doesn't teach us one thing about earning money? School teaches us nothing about earning money. I learned how to earn millions of dollars, but I didn't learn it in school. I didn't learn it from a professor. I didn't learn it the way most people think you learn. I learned it the way you're getting it right here, right now. I learned it from people like Jen and Joshua. I went to people that knew that were already doing it, and I did exactly what they told me. And everything they said worked. It's like the man who gave me the book. He said, Bob, until you find out I'm lying or I don't know what I'm talking about, do exactly what I tell you. And I started to follow that as a principle. And I've done that with a number of different mentors, about 6 or 7 of them. Well, he took him home and he explained his whole philosophy. Then he said, now, Napoleon, I'm going to ask you a question. And he said, I just want a yes or no answer. He had a stopwatch in his hand under the desk. He was sitting at a desk. And he said to Napoleon, would you dedicate the rest of your life to an idea for which you'll probably receive no material compensation for at least 20 years? He gave him 60 seconds to answer the question. No, he didn't tell him that. In 29 seconds, Hill said, yes, I will. I've asked myself, I don't know how many times, what I would do. I think I would have said yes too. I think if I'd spent 3 days with him, I'd realize this guy's a pretty square shooter. Well, at any rate, he got talking to him and he says, now, Napoleon, you're going to have trouble. You're going to have a real rough road to go. And he said, you've got to have something to get you through the rough times. So I said, I'm going to give you a statement and I want you to repeat it. I want you to write it out and underline every word. Now here's the statement. Andrew Carnegie, I'm not only going to equal your achievements in life, but I'm going to challenge you at the post and pass you at the grandstand. Hill said he threw his pencil on the floor at that point and he says, now you know darn well this isn't going to happen. He said, I know it's not, Napoleon, unless and until you plant that properly in your subconscious mind. Think of that. So he said, okay, he'd do it. He said, I want you to commit to me that you will write that out, you'll look in the mirror, and you'll say that to yourself every day. Every day, every morning, and every night, you'll do that for 30 days. He'll say, okay, I'll do that. Well, he got home, and he felt like a fool. He was living with his brother, and he's going to stand in front of a mirror and say this. So he locked himself in the bathroom, and he whispered in the mirror. And he said he felt like a fool. But he said, I committed to do it, so he continued to do it. He said after about 15 days, he thought maybe this would work. By the end of the month, he knew it was going to work. Now think of this. I've read where Andrew Carnegie made something like 50 millionaires. Napoleon Hill has made millions of millionaires. I'm one of them. There's millions of millionaires that will tell you it was Napoleon Hill's work that did it. Okay? It's a decision. You've got to learn how to make a decision. Now, I'm going to show you something about decision. To do that, I'm going to use a phone as an example. Okay? Now, let these lines represent levels of vibration. Every level of vibration is hooked up to the one above and the one below. Vibration is the law of the universe. This whole universe operates by law. Well, there's vibrations, they're called frequencies, and they're all hooked together. Okay? Your phone operates on a frequency. If I have your number, I can dial that number, I will cause your phone to ring. That's my phone. That's what MP is, and the YP is your phone. Okay? Now, if I dial your number, bingo, I'm locked into you. It won't matter where you are in the world, we're both on the same frequency, so we can talk to one another. You can play music with one another. You can do all kinds of things because you're on the same frequency. Well, you know, we seem to understand that with phones, but we don't seem to understand it with life. Now look at this insofar as decisions is concerned. This is a great lesson. There's some of you wondering, how far can you go? Well, look at this. Let these lines represent levels of vibration. Level of vibration is called a frequency. Okay? We think on frequencies. So you let these puffy little clouds represent thoughts. And it's the thoughts you think that dictate the results you're going to get. That's the one point all great leaders have agreed on. They've disagreed on virtually everything else. We become what we think about. So we'll say, that's my result, but that's not what I want. I want this. I don't know how to get it. I don't know how to get it. That's what I want. That's really what I want. I'm going to do that as soon as I get the money. I'm going to do that as soon as the kids are out of school. I'm going to do that as soon as this changes. This is never going to change. That's never going to change. It just won't change. Because you're on the same frequency, you're going to get the same results. Pretty soon the decision fades and then the goal's gone. What is the problem here? Well, here's the problem. You're thinking down here on this frequency, and your goal is way up here on this higher frequency, you see? You've got to get your thoughts on the same frequency as the goal that you're going after is on. You can't think down here on the lower frequency and expect to get the higher results. You got to get up in that high octane energy and start thinking up there. That's like listening to an AM radio and try to get FM music. You're not going to do it. Now look it. You've got to begin thinking and acting like the person you want to become. It's got to be a committed decision, and zippo, you've got to take your mind up there. You've got to think and act like the person you want to become. That's what you want to start doing right now. Think and act like the person you want to become. You know that person that's on that higher level that's earning all that money? Think and act like that person, and that's where you're going to go. See, the only prerequisite to making a decision is what you want. It's want. If you know what you want, that's it. This is what I want. Just want is the only prerequisite. That's it. It's so basic and so simple. That's why successful people make decisions so fast. They know what they want. It has nothing to do with whether they got the money or not. You see, you go back here for a moment. When you make a committed decision, it doesn't matter where you have the money. I tell a story in the Born Rich book that a couple wanted to buy a house and they didn't have any money. I said, you don't need any money. And they said, what do you mean we don't need any money? I said, you never made a decision to buy the house. What do you need the money for? Now look it. That's all you have to do. Okay? You want to start controlling the flow. There's energy flowing to and through you. You got to flow. You got to control it. It's so basic and so simple. Remember what I said? Your conscious mind is your reasoning mind. It's divided into two parts, okay? Part of it's inductive, that's the part you think with, and the other part's deductive. That's where it leaves you wide open, wide open. You're totally deductive in your subconscious mind. That's why Carnegie said, you've got to get the idea properly planted in your subconscious mind. You know how you do that? Repetition. Listen to the same thing over and over and over again, and it gets stuck in the subconscious. When you stop thinking, and most people don't think very often, their mind is wide open. It's just open sesame. Whatever's going on around them, all that negativity, it's all over the place. Listen, if only 5% really win, 95% really don't win. And their thinking is going to go right into your subconscious mind. Now that's rather sad, but that's exactly the way it works. You have, control your energy. You're a mass of energy. I'm going to show you something here that's rather interesting. I've played with this for a long time, and I absolutely love it. A frequency is a level of vibration. The Secret, as popular as it was, most people on The Secret really didn't understand the law of attraction. And so a lot of people that are talking about the law of attraction really truly don't understand it. The law of attraction is a secondary law. There's primary laws. The law of vibration is a primary law. You vibrate. You are a mass of energy and a high speed of vibration. That's what you are. This physical body is a molecular energy, is a molecular mass of energy, and it's in a high speed of vibration. Now, frequency is a level of vibration. When you get on the same frequency as the good you desire, it starts to come to you. That's why we say in the decision, you've got to quit thinking down here and start thinking like the person who already has it. Act like the person you want to become. You've got to get it in your consciousness first. You see it in here. Keep it in there. Quit looking outside at your present income. Quit looking outside at your present results. Build the picture of what you want, and that's the only picture you hold in your mind. Now listen. There's an infinite number of frequencies. There's no end to them. And like we said, they're all hooked together. They're all hooked up to the one above and the one below. Now I want you to think of this for a moment. You've got these higher faculties. Einstein talked about them. The intuitive mind is a sacred gift. The rational mind is an obedient servant. We've created a society that honors the servant and has forgotten the gift. Those higher faculties, they're what you've got. We want to learn how to use them. Now, I want you to let that X represent where you are in life. So block everything out. Don't just think about everything I'm saying. I want you to just look at where you are in your life right now. Let that X represent where you are in your life right now. That represents your income, your relationships, everything. Okay? Now, if you stop and are honest with yourself, you'll see how you got there. You can see how from one level to another. Let these represent levels of awareness. You can see how you've got to where you are. You can't see how you can go further, but your memory will show you how you got to where you are. I remember sitting and talking to, this way it goes, I was talking to Jennifer, Jenna, and I was asking her, how did you do this? Now, I've been studying success all my life, but what they've done here has fascinated me. It truly fascinated me. I took a look at this company. I said, how did you do this? Well, this is how they did it. See, they took a look at where they are, and then they said, but that's where I want to go. That's where I want to go. But you're looking into the dark. You don't know how to get there. Most people let that fade. Don't let it fade. Understand this. There is a place. That's a frequency. Your imagination took you there. Now, wait a minute. Come back. Your imagination took you there. That's a place. If your imagination, nothing's created or destroyed. Everything's already here. And you got to believe you can do it. Now look at. The moment your belief matches with any state, that's a state. Up there is a state. That's what it is. The moment your belief matches with any state, you fuse with it. You become one with it. Yet the union results in the activation and projection of its plots and plans and conditions and circumstances. You don't have to know how to get there. The way will appear. That's the way it works. This new state of conscious awareness becomes your home. That's what it does. It becomes your home from which you view the world. It's beautiful the way this works. It's your workshop. And if you're observant, you're going to start to see in your physical world how everything's moving into place. Look it. When you move to a higher frequency, you're going to be communicating with a world that is totally foreign to and beyond the reach of your five senses. So quit looking outside for your answers. You got to go inside. You got to go into your mind. See, there's no way you can see how to get there. Steve Jobs put it very well. He said, you can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking backwards. That's all. But if you stay here, going to go, and I see myself where I am and I'm going to get there, you'll find that all these levels will start to connect for you. And when you get there, you'll say, damn, I could have gone there. See, there really is no end to where you can go and what you can do. It's a beautiful truth. Where are you going and what are you doing? Now you see, what you want to do is ask yourself, what do you really want? What do you really want?
Sure. Which language? Arabic, German.
My phone
Spanish,
is talking back
French,
at me here.
Italian, Japanese.
I don't know what the hell to do with this thing. All right? Okay? You want to control the flow of the energy. There's energy flowing to and through you. And you've got to control it.
Catch that.
Come and take this thing away, will you, Scott? Thank you. Scott's our studio director. You get to control the flow of the energy. You really have to. And when you do, you're going to really start moving. Now, here's something you must learn. To move to a considerably higher frequency, you must first consent. In other words, you've got to make the decision. Nobody can do it for you. I know that every person in your company that's hit a good level, they would love to do this for you. They can't do it for you. Nobody can do this for you. This is something you've got to do for yourself. You've got to move to that higher frequency yourself. Nobody can take you there. At the suggestion of a move, your paradigm is going to put up a royal battle. And it'll continue to fight you until you take conscious control over it. Now, that's a beautiful thing. If you just turn all the screen down now, Josh, thanks. I want to just, turn that off, please. Turn the slides off. That's right. Thanks, Josh. Scott. This is, I'm rushing here to put a lot into an hour. I know you only had an hour, or I only had an hour, and so I packed as much as I could in. Now, this is so important. I was a young, struggling guy. I didn't really know which end was up. But the man that gave me the book, he said, you can have anything you want. I really didn't believe that, but I believed him. And he said, until you find out I'm lying or I don't know what I'm talking about, do exactly what I tell you. I don't lie, and I do know what I'm talking about. Do exactly what I tell you. You're capable of so much more than you're doing. And you see, because we're spiritual beings, spirit's always for expansion and fuller expression. There's something inside wants you to grow, wants you to do more. I want to thank Jenna and Joshua for inviting me here to share this with you. And I truly want you to get this. I truly do. Do not let the negativity around you pull you down. You're getting hit with it all the time. And it seems now there just seems to be more of it than most times. Don't let it get you. You be the positive force. You be the great example that people are going to follow. So I want to thank you. This is Bob Proctor, and it's been a real pleasure sharing this.